What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our unique series on the Community Corner podcast, where we explore the remarkable stories of companies in the S&P 500. I'm Arnav.
And I'm Nikhil, and today we're going to be diving into a company that is truly a household name for most of us, Apple. So let's dive into how this tech titan climbed to the top.
Apple's journey is a blueprint for innovation, resilience, and brand loyalty, so let's uncover the secrets behind their rise to fame.
So Arnav, how did Apple's remarkable journey even start?
Yeah, so Apple's roots trace back to 1976 in a California garage. And I think I already said this last episode, but we're kind of seeing a trend here. Right? We're 3 for 3 on garages, so something's up with garages. I don't know. But Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne started with a vision to make computing personal and accessible. The Apple I, their first creation, set them on this path.
And it wasn't just this, right? Apple's product line is just way more extensive than that. So beyond the Apple I, they created the Apple II, which they focused on that really intuitive design. And this included incorporating graphics and a user-friendly interface that didn't require much programming knowledge, which was really revolutionary at the time because, again, during this time, people did not know as much about technology as we do now. It wasn't as much of a common sense, common knowledge type of thing. So it was very important to keep this pretty user-friendly.
Mm-hmm. And their focus was on making technology accessible. Because obviously back in the day, not everyone had access to technology because it was such a luxury item, or like it was really sought out for. Like, for example, in the early 1900s, cars were in the same thing, but now cars is a household thing that almost everyone in our community has. So it's just really cool to see the growth of technology and how Apple really took advantage of its early stages and kind of took control of the market by making technology accessible for the common man. But how did this kind of shape Apple's growth?
For sure. I mean, I think that this user-centric approach and that user-friendliness really attracted non-technical users, people without kind of that background in IT or tech, or things like that. And that really broadened their market. You know, they were hitting a lot more people that they otherwise would not be able to reach. And it wasn't just about the technology. It was about how easily people could integrate it into their lives.
Yeah, I mean, the Apple brand was definitely great, but I kind of want to hit on how the 80s and 90s for Apple weren't really the greatest at times. Just kind of to elaborate on that. Despite the success of Macintosh, which is kind of like their main computer back in the day in 1984, Apple did face challenges, right? So first of all, there was a lot of internal conflict between the founders, which kind of led to Jobs' departure in 1985. And the period that followed saw Apple struggling to maintain its market position as a lead and like a major shareholder on this market. Kind of almost the exact opposite of what Amazon was at its time. But kind of what were the key factors that helped Apple bounce back and become literally the leading innovator of its time? And I think just a couple weeks ago, when we're filming this, it's named for, I think, in 2 years in a row, the number one tech company, something like that. So especially with $3 trillion in revenue and like the highest revenue from a company.
It was the first company to hit 1 trillion, I believe.
1 trillion.
A couple years back.
Exactly. So what were kind of the key factors that helped Apple bounce back despite these struggles in the 80s and 90s?
Yep. So Steve Jobs' return in 1997 was pivotal. He was kicked off his own company, if you didn't know, and he's basically streamlined this product line, focusing on fewer products with a higher quality, which is probably a phrase that you've heard a lot in your life, quality over quantity. And the introduction of the iMac in 1998, which still exists to this day, obviously in some newer forms, was really known for its unique design and user-friendly interface. And that kind of marked the beginning of this new era for Apple.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of, like, it's all about that sleek design and user-friendly, like, attitude that Apple had, which really promoted brand growth. Like, literally, people get shunned upon for not having an Apple iPhone because Androids, they get the stuff done, but they're just not as cool as iPhones. Like, in my opinion, I think iPhones are so much better than Androids.
It almost kind of gave this persona almost to the phone.
Exactly. Like, if you see a green bubble, you're gonna get shunned on. Like, honestly. So, like, just that entire brand image of sleekness and good design, and, you know, it's all about the user-friendly atmosphere, really launched their success, especially when Jobs came to be, you know. And as with Apple's integration of all its devices, having a Mac is so much better because you can text from the computer. So having that like all devices connected is also really cool. So it's all about promoting user friendly atmosphere, and that's kind of what really revolutionized its growth. But I think it's also the leadership and vision which are really crucial during this turnaround and kind of bouncing it back to success.
For sure. Actually, funny story. I think it was Steve Wozniak. I actually met him 5 years ago at this conference. We met up at this hotel in Dallas, and it was really, really interesting experience. But even beyond that, I think even beyond that user kind of interface that's super friendly, Apple has had very specific devices and technologies it's released that's caused global success. And so some of those include the iPod in 2001, which I know isn't being as used anymore, but that was pretty revolutionary during for the music industry at that time.
100%.
Also, of course, the introduction of the iPhone in 2007, the year me and Arnav were both born, about 7 days apart, I believe.
Yep.
And the iPad in 2010, which I know I used a lot growing up, and I'm sure Arnav can attest to that as well.
Yep.
Especially a lot of kids use that. And it really just reshaped the mobile computing and communication hardware overall. And Apple's success really lies in creating ecosystems that integrate hardware, software, and services seamlessly. I personally own a Mac and an iPhone, and I'm able to, like Arnav mentioned earlier, I'm able to send a text on my iPhone and see it from my Mac, my phone, and if I had an Apple Watch, I'd see it on there. And so that integration and that seamlessness of the technology is super, super vital to Apple's success.
And it continues to lead in innovation because of its commitment it extends to its recent ventures to digital services and wearable technology, and they consistently refine user experience, keeping pace with evolving consumer needs and technological advances. And kind of what we've seen with these companies so far, this is our third episode filming this, that all of these main companies, they have a knack of adapting to what the consumer needs and adapting fast before the competitors do it, kind of taking control of the market share. And the efficiency and target towards consumer needs is what propels them towards growth and really maximizes their revenue, basically.
Exactly. Thank you, Arnav, for that deep insight into Apple's history. To our listeners, stay with us as we unravel even more stories about business innovation and success in the S&P 500.
100%. Each episode will uncover the lessons behind the successes of these corporate giants. So, on that note, tune in next time for more inspiring journeys in the Community Corner podcast. Until next time, peace.